I didn't want to go to her birthday. Let's start with that truth, because everything falls apart from it. If you tell this story to anyone else, they'll ask, why wouldn't you want to celebrate your niece? She's family, she's a child, but they don't understand my family, they don't understand my sister, and they don't understand what it feels like to be loved in secret and resented in public. So when my niece called me 3 nights before the party, begging in that small, trembling voice children use when they think they're asking for too much, I lied. I said, false, I'll be there, baby. What I wanted to say was, your mother will be there, she'll destroy me if she sees you run to me instead of her. But children don't need those kinds of nightmares, they've already inherited enough from us. The morning of the birthday, I sat in my car outside the venue for 15 minutes, staring through my windshield at the house. It wasn't even a home, it was a performance. White walls, perfect hedges, rentals parked outside like a showroom, a garden full of decorations that screamed, look how perfect we are, look how much we spend, look how happy she is. My sister was always like that. Everything had to be a competition. If someone's celebration was loud, hers had to scream. If another mother bought her child 1 gift, she'd buy 5 and tell them loudly where she got each one. If you complimented her daughter, she'd remind you how much she sacrificed to raise her. The tragedy is that she did sacrifice. She just never learned how to do it quietly. I checked my phone, 3 missed messages from my niece. Auntie, are you close? I can't wait for you to come. Please don't cancel like last year. That last one hit me in the throat. The year before wasn't my fault. I had an asthma attack so severe I spent the night in the emergency room, but her mother told everyone, oh, she just doesn't care. When children hear that enough, they learn to fear disappointment like a punishment. So I inhaled, wiped my eyes, and walked to the gate. The front yard was full of adults pretending to enjoy the party while they scrolled on their phones. Pink balloons, expensive caterer, music just loud enough to drown conversations. Every parent's birthday formula. I scanned the crowd and saw my sister instantly. She was impossible to miss. Long braids arranged like a crown, red lipstick like an accusation, gold nails tapping against her wine glass like a warning. She didn't see me yet. Thank God. Then I heard it. Auntie. It shot through the crowd like lightning. Before I could even brace myself, she sprinted across the yard, my niece, dress flowing, braids bouncing, pure joy pouring out of her like she'd finally been allowed to breathe. And when she slammed into me, it wasn't a hug, it was a collapse. The kind of embrace children give when they have been holding something heavy, and they finally found somewhere to put it down. Her tiny arms locked around my neck, her face buried in my shoulder. She didn't let go. She held me like I was oxygen, like she'd been drowning, like I was the first safe thing she'd touched in months. I could feel her shaking, not excitement, relief, like she'd been afraid I wouldn't come, and the fear was finally leaving her body. I wrapped my arms around her, slowly, gently, the way you hug something delicate. The music faded, the conversations blurred. Every sound in the yard dimmed. It was just me and her. A little girl clinging to the only adult who ever listened. Then she lifted her head and said it, loud, loud enough for every guest to hear. Auntie, your house feels safer than mine. Her voice didn't crack. It didn't apologize. It was earnest, raw, hopeful. She said it like a fact she had carried for years and never had the courage to speak. You know those moments in life where time doesn't slow down, it stops? That was one. People turned to look. Some confused, some curious, some with the half smile of nosy satisfaction. But I didn't look at them. I looked at her mother, my sister. Distance makes faces look small, like dolls or portraits, but fury makes them enormous. Her eyes sharpened into knives, her lips froze on the rim of her glass, her neck stiffened like a lion whose cub just picked a different pride. She didn't scream, she didn't shout, that would have been easier. She just lowered her glass, walked toward us, every step like a countdown to impact. The party chatter died around her. Every adult in the yard suddenly remembered they had somewhere else to look. Phones, drinks, plates, anything except the unfolding war. She touched our niece's shoulder lightly, fingers stiff, nails cold against the child's skin. Then she turned her eyes toward me and smiled, a smile that didn't reach her eyes, a smile that said, I am about to ruin you in front of everyone. I'd seen that smile before. When I won a scholarship, she didn't. When our father hugged me at graduation, when her boyfriend complimented my cooking. It was the smile of a woman who believed love was a trophy, not something you give freely. I loosened my niece's arms gently, trying not to let her feel my own shaking. My sister leaned close enough for only me to hear and whispered, "Why is she more comfortable in your mess than in her own home?" I should have walked away, I should have stayed silent, I should have swallowed it like I always did. But something in me cracked, a soundless, delicate break, like ice on the surface of a lake, and every buried memory rushed upward. The nights the girl called me crying, the texts asking to sleep over, the unsigned drawings she slipped into my purse, me and her, smiling. Her mother nowhere. My throat burned. I didn't plan it. I didn't think. I whispered back, maybe because she's allowed to breathe there. My sister didn't blink. She didn't flinch. She just inhaled, and the first explosion of the night began. My sister didn't explode like people in movies do. She didn't shout or throw wine or pull our niece away dramatically. No, real anger from women like her is surgical, calculated, weaponized. She let my words settle, like poison dissolving into her bloodstream. Then she turned toward the guests, lips parting into a wide, practiced smile. "Oh, it's just her being dramatic," she announced, voice sweet as artificial honey. "She's always sensitive, you know how kids are." The adults laughed politely, not because they believed her, because polite laughter is the cheapest currency at social events. Only one person didn't laugh, my niece. She stared at her mother with slow-growing confusion, like she had just realized something wasn't right in the world she thought she understood. "Auntie isn't dramatic," she said quietly. My sister froze. The child had broken script. "See, in our family, children don't interrupt adults. They perform, smile, kiss cheeks, say thank you, pose for photos, never disrupt their parents' reputations." But my niece didn't know she had just stepped into a battlefield. "You don't understand," my sister murmured, eyes still locked on the guests, still smiling as if nothing was wrong. "She's just very emotional." The girl frowned. "No, I'm not." The sky shifted. The cicadas stopped humming, and every eye in that yard turned to us. I felt the urge to step between them, protect her, shield her, lie if needed, but I didn't. Something inside me whispered, "Let her speak. Let her be heard once in her life." My sister raised her voice just a bit, enough for everyone to hear, while pretending it was playful. "When you were younger, you used to cry at everything," she said, chuckling. "You still do, actually. Remember Christmas? Oh my God." She turned to the women beside her, their gazebo wine club earrings dangling like trophies. She sobbed for 2 hours because the doll had the wrong hair color. They laughed on cue, rehearsed obedient. My niece stood straighter. That's not what happened. Her tone was flat, not childish, not defensive, truthful, and truth is threatening. "You promised me the other doll," she said. "You said I earned it." My sister's eye twitched. "And you didn't, because you were naughty." "I was sick," the girl replied. "I was in the hospital." And there it was, the first crack. Not in the daughter's voice, but in the mask her mother wore. My sister swallowed. The kind of swallow that tastes like shame and anger mixed together. "Sweetheart," she said through clenched teeth, "you're remembering it wrong." She reached down, fingers closing around the girl's wrist. Instinctively, I stepped forward. My sister shot me a warning look without turning her face. "Don't." But I did. "Let her speak," I said softly. That was the second crack. Now the spectators stopped pretending to be uninterested. Phones lowered. Glasses paused mid-sip. Every parent, every guest, suddenly very willing to consume a little drama. My sister let go of her daughter and pivoted to the crowd. "I'm sorry, everyone. She's been emotional lately. Teenage hormones." The girl looked at her mother like she'd been slapped. "You told me to stop crying," she said. "You said it makes you look like a bad parent." The silence was instantaneous. Nobody breathed. Nobody swallowed. Even the wind hesitated. My sister blinked. Once, then twice. Like her brain was rebooting. She said nothing. So the girl kept going. "And when I called Auntie," she continued, "you locked me in my room so I couldn't talk to her." There was no anger in her tone. Just devastation. Pure, unfiltered heartbreak. The kind you don't learn at 13. The kind you inherit. I watched my sister's jaw tighten so hard I could almost hear teeth grinding. She didn't deny it. She couldn't, because half the mothers there had done the same, not literally but spiritually. The go-to-your-room punishment is almost universal, but locking a child away so she can't speak to the person she trusts, that was different. Even the women who secretly despised me turned their eyes, suddenly uneasy. Finally, my sister inhaled. It was a slow, venomous breath. She looked at me, not her daughter, and said, "This is your fault." Not shouted, accused, pointed. She was drawing lines now, separating battlefield sides. I told you to stop seeing her. Her eyes narrowed. You couldn't respect boundaries. My chest warmed with anger, not flame, but molten metal slowly filling every cavity. Boundaries, I repeated. You mean when she comes to me crying at midnight because you— Stop. The word snapped like a whip. Guests jumped, my niece startled, and I froze, not because the command scared me, but because I recognized that version of my sister. It was the one that came out when she thought people were threatening her spotlight. Her voice dropped into that rehearsed, motherly tone people use when they want to look sane while they're burning. She's manipulating you, she said. She wants attention. She always has. I opened my mouth, but the child spoke first. You don't listen. Quiet, small, trembling, not dramatic, not rebellious, just broken. You never listen to me, she said. You listen to who you want me to be. The words hit every adult there like a confession, because they had all heard some version of it before, from their own kids, or nieces, or the children they ignored while talking to their friends. My sister's face drained of color. She stepped forward, hands curling. You ungrateful little— I moved. Not violently. I simply placed my arm in front of the child and said, that's enough. Not loud. Quiet enough to force people to lean in. Quiet enough to sound final. Quiet enough that it was clearly not a request. My sister stared at me. Her eyes turned glassy, almost wet, not from sadness, from humiliation. I recognized it instantly. She wasn't angry about her daughter's pain. She wasn't angry about truth. She was angry she couldn't control the narrative. She whispered, voice shaking with poison, you don't get to be the hero in my house. I leaned in, and I whispered back, then don't make me one. That was the moment things turned irreversibly personal. Not about the girl, not about the birthday, not about guests or decor or image. This became about the war we had never stopped fighting since childhood. Who was loved more? Who was seen more? Who people trusted more? The girl, our girl, was simply caught in the crossfire. I should have backed down. I should have left. I should have held her hand and walked out, said nothing, been the adult, but trauma is louder than logic. And my sister did something that ripped the last threads of restraint out of me. She turned to the guests with a fake sob and said, I don't know what I did wrong. I love her. I sacrifice for her, and she treats strangers like family. Strangers, not sister, not aunt, stranger. The girl behind me whispered, you're not a stranger. And that sentence broke her mother. She lunged, not to hit me, not to hit her, to drag her, fingers closing on the child's arm like claws. My niece gasped, her knee buckled, and that was the first time in my entire life, my entire childhood, my entire adulthood, every single scar and silent night, that I ever raised my voice at my sister. I didn't think, I just screamed, let go of her. The entire backyard shook with it. People froze, music stopped, caterers stared, kids fell silent. Oh. And in that sudden, awful quiet, somewhere beneath the balloons and decorations and smiles, the truth we'd been burying for years surfaced. Everyone has a moment in life that becomes their before and after line. That moment for me wasn't dramatic like a movie explosion. It was the sight of my sister's fingers digging into her daughter's wrist, not violently enough to leave bruises, but tight enough to remind the child who owned her. That is the kind of violence people rarely talk about, the kind that doesn't make noise. I grabbed my sister's wrist without thinking. Her skin was ice, her eyes were fire. Let go, I repeated. She didn't. She leaned forward and whispered through her teeth, you never learned your place. And then she twisted the girl toward the house. No more of this circus. Inside, now. The guests parted like curtains. Everyone suddenly had so much empathy for the mother who just wants peace. No one looked at the girl, or if they did, they looked through her like a smudge on a window. That is the tragedy of childhood. Kids are invisible until they break. My niece dug her heels into the grass. Not dramatic, desperate. She didn't scream. She didn't fight. She just said with a steady, trembling voice, Mom, you're hurting me. A normal mother would have stopped. A normal mother would have frozen, horrified at herself. My sister didn't. She leaned down, her forehead inches from her daughter's cheek, and said, No, I'm not. You're just weak. The kind of sentence that cuts deeper than fists. I felt a fury rise in me that I didn't know belonged to my body. I stepped closer. She is not weak. Heads turned again. Guests who had been pretending to arrange balloons and refill glasses suddenly remembered their spines. My sister's head snapped toward me like a predator tracking prey. "Oh," she hissed, "then why does she run to you every time life is inconvenient?" There it was, not about the girl, about me, about power, about history. She dragged the child forward again, and then, a moment of pure heartbreak, my niece wrenched her hand free, tiny fingers slipping from nail-polished claws, and bolted. Not toward the house, not toward the guests, toward me. She didn't run like a teenager trying to be dramatic. She ran like a child who knows exactly where safety lives. She collided into me so hard we both nearly fell. She clung to my side like a life raft. She whispered into my sleeve, "Don't let her take me." It took 3 seconds for every parent there to realize, this girl isn't acting. She is begging. But sympathy doesn't live in rich people's parties. It only lives in whispers and gossip. A murmur rippled across the yard. Teenagers, so emotional. Probably just hormones. Kids nowadays are dramatic. Every sentence was toxicity wrapped in politeness. My sister straightened her back and smiled. That same social smile from scene 1, the watch me perform smile. She slithered toward me, arms open. "Sweetheart," she said to her daughter, "stop being ridiculous. Come now, everyone is watching." The girl shook her head into my arm. "I don't want to go with you." I felt the world tilt. Gasps, raised brows, phones held half hidden. My sister's cheeks flushed red under the foundation. She sneered, "You don't get to embarrass me." "Embarrass you?" The words exploded from me before I could choke them down. It was too late. The dam had broken. "You don't listen to her," I said loudly. "You don't hug her when she cries. You only comfort her when someone else is watching." My sister blinked, stunned. "You don't talk to her unless she's winning," I continued. "When she struggles, you punish. When she needs love, you tell her to get over it." People weren't pretending to ignore us anymore. They were glued to the spectacle. A family cracked open is irresistible. She laughed, sharp, humorless. "Oh, please, you're not her savior. You're a guest who doesn't understand motherhood." Her voice rose. "Try raising a child alone. Try working 2 jobs and still hosting birthdays." "You don't raise her," I cut in. "You manage her." Silence hit like thunder. The girl flinched under the weight of words adults toss like grenades. Every guest could feel the explosion coming, but they also secretly wanted to see it. My sister pointed at me. "You're jealous," she spat. "You always have been. She loves me. I'm her mother. Do you love her?" I asked. Simple question, deadly question. Her mouth opened, then closed. Because she didn't have an answer she could say in front of a crowd, and so she defaulted to control. "Give her to me," she demanded. "No," my niece whispered. That tiny syllable was gasoline. My sister's composure snapped. Her voice cracked like the stem of a broken glass. "You think she understands anything at her age? She doesn't know who's using her, who's lying to her." "Who is lying?" I asked quietly. She glared at me. "You told everyone I abandoned her last year," I said. "I was in the hospital." Whispers in the crowd. "Oh God, I heard that. I thought she just didn't show." "She never said it was the hospital." My sister froze. I had not planned to say it. But buried truths have a way of clawing their way up your throat. "You think parenting is sacrifice," I continued. "It isn't. Sacrifice is easy. Sacrifice is dramatic. Everyone sees it." I stepped forward. "Parenting is listening. It's the quiet stuff no one claps for." My voice cracked. "It's when your child says, 'Auntie, I can't sleep at 2 a.m., and you sit on the floor so she can breathe in silence." The girl beside me sobbed silently. I didn't touch her hair or stroke her back, because if I did, I would fall apart too. My sister looked around frantically, searching for allies she could weaponize, but no one met her eyes. Even her friends, the ones who usually nodded at everything she said, were suddenly very busy adjusting tablecloths, sipping drinks, pretending to inspect their nails. And then, something terrible happened, something that changed everything. My sister turned to her daughter and said, "You're only saying this because she poisoned you." The child looked up slowly, not with fear, with disbelief, like someone realizing their pain was never seen, only framed as rebellion. "Poisoned me," she whispered. "You run to her because she encourages weakness," my sister hissed. "She feeds it." I shook my head. "This isn't weakness." "It is," she snapped. "Children don't know what they want." And then she made the fatal mistake, and neither did I. I should have given her to someone else. The yard went silent. Not shocked silent. Funeral silent. My niece's body went rigid. She stared at her mother like a glass sculpture about to crack. "Give me away," she whispered. The guests froze, eyes wide, phones lowered, no one moved. My sister's face paled. She had gone too far. She tried to backpedal. "I didn't mean." But the child stepped forward and asked the one question that can break any parent. "Why didn't you?" Not shouted, not screamed, asked, with a voice so soft it was impossible to ignore. My sister staggered backward. Her heel slipped in the grass. For the first time in my life, I saw her completely defenseless. Not dramatically broken, just exposed, all her pride gone, all her composure stripped, and suddenly she wasn't a monster. She was just a woman who never healed from her own wounds and passed them down like inheritance. But pain doesn't excuse harm. It only explains it. And as the guests stared at her in silent judgment, the birthday decorations hung around us like witnesses. The truth settled over the yard. This wasn't a child acting out. This was a child begging to be seen. And then, as if summoned by the moment, a voice cut through the quiet. A man from the far table, her fiancé, the one who had ignored us all night, finally looked up and said, "Maybe she should stay with her aunt for a while." The entire party exhaled, not relief, shock. My sister stared at him. His hands calmly rested on the table. He didn't blink. He wasn't dramatic. He wasn't emotional. He just said, "She trusts her." The hurricane hadn't ended. It had just begun. It was strange how the world didn't crack like thunder. No shouting, no chaos, just that one sentence drifting through the yard like a cold wind. Maybe she should stay with her aunt for a while. The party decorations fluttered in the breeze. Plastic butterflies twirled on strings. Music buzzed in the background like a mosquito that no one wanted to swat. And my sister, the queen of image, the curator of perfection, the woman who spoke like every word was a crown, looked like someone had pulled her out of her own skin. She stared at her fiancé, stunned as if the ground beneath her feet had betrayed her. "You," she whispered, voice paper thin, "must be joking." He didn't blink. "I'm not." Guests pretended to take sips from their drinks, but no one actually drank. Their hands hovered, waiting. Because this wasn't spectacle anymore. This was a collapse. Her daughter stood between us, gripping my sleeve like a lifeline, her little fingers trembling. The girl wasn't smiling. She wasn't triumphant. She simply looked tired. Tired the way children get when they've been adults too long. My sister's voice snapped. "Stay with her? Are you insane?" She turned to me with venom. "You think you can just slide into her life because she has a tantrum?" I opened my mouth, but her fiancé raised a hand. Not aggressively, just calmly. A gesture that quieted everything more effectively than any scream. "Stop," he said. Not loud, final. He stood, smoothing the cuff of his suit jacket like a man preparing to deliver a verdict. He didn't walk toward her, he walked toward the girl, and no one stepped in his way. He crouched to her eye level. We all held our breath. "Nia," he said softly, her name spoken like a prayer, not a scolding. "Did you ask her to come today?" She nodded. "Why?" She hesitated. The kind of hesitation children show when they fear the truth will ruin the room. "Because I feel safe with her." My sister inhaled sharply, like she'd been slapped. Her fiancé didn't look at her. He didn't look at me. He stayed focused on the child. "What does safe mean?" She swallowed. "Safe means, when I talk, she doesn't get angry." The silence that followed was brutal. No adult in that yard could pretend not to understand. She wasn't complaining. She was explaining. My sister finally found her voice. "Are you listening to this?" she cried to the crowd. "She's manipulating everyone. She's 13. She doesn't know what she's saying." She reached to grab her daughter again. I stepped in front without thinking. She glared like she might claw through me. Her fiancé stood up, taller than her, taller than the whole situation. "Stop touching her like she's a suitcase," he said. Her mouth fell open. The audacity of calm men is something I've never fully understood. They can dismantle you without raising their voice, without lifting a hand, simply by speaking truths you've avoided for years. People moved closer. Not to help, to witness. We all know the difference. My sister pointed a shaking finger at him. "How dare you humiliate me in front of everyone?" He looked at her with heartbreaking composure. "I'm not humiliating you. I'm describing what I see." She scoffed. "Oh, suddenly you're a therapist?" "No," he said. "I'm someone who's been living in your house." That line hit her like a punch. because up until now she still had plausible deniability. She could pretend none of us understood. She could hide behind the excuse of being misunderstood. But here was the man who saw her every morning and every night, saying it out loud. Her breath hitched. "What are you implying?" He sighed. "I'm implying she's afraid of you." That was when she snapped. Not theatrically. Worse. With the cold precision of someone who has weaponized denial for years. "I feed her. I buy her clothes. I pay her tuition. I organize birthdays. I work so she doesn't have to." "You work to be praised," he interrupted gently. "You don't parent her. You perform her." That line slashed her carefully constructed persona apart. Guests exchanged glances they'd been hiding for years. "That's true. I always wondered why she was so strict. She never lets the girl speak. Everything is a show." And my sister realized the eyes were no longer on her daughter. They were on her. She turned wild like a trapped animal. "You're all judging me? You don't know what I've been through." Ah, the trauma trump card. The one she always played when cornered. She raised her voice loud enough to drag the whole yard into her pain. "I raised her alone. Do you know what it's like? To lose a father? To have him walk out? To have bills piling up?" "You're not the only one who lost someone," her fiancé said. That stopped her cold. Every parent in that yard felt the shift. "What?" she stuttered. He stepped closer. "When we met," he said, "you said you wanted a partner, a fresh start, a home." He gestured around at the garden, the balloons, the rented tables. "This isn't a home. It's a museum where everything must be perfect for visitors." He pointed to the girl. "And she is the exhibit." Gasps, hands to mouths. One woman walked away, murmuring, "Oh God." Even the DJ turned the music off. My sister's lips trembled. She looked dangerously close to breaking. Then she pivoted the full force of her fury at me. "This is what you wanted," she screamed. "You want to steal my daughter. You always wanted to replace me." Ah, there it was. The childhood wound, the real one. She wasn't afraid of losing control. She was afraid of being forgotten. She stepped toward me, finger shaking. "You think you're better because she talks to you? You're not even a mother." The world held its breath. My niece squeezed my hand. Her fiancé stood still. Every adult waited, and I did the one thing that finally ended the battle. I didn't defend myself. I didn't rise. I didn't fight. I simply looked at her, voice barely above a whisper. "If I'm not a mother, why does your child keep calling me one?" She staggered back like someone had punched her gut. Because that was the truth she never wanted to hear, never wanted her friends to hear, never wanted anyone to see. All the money, the decorations, the rented tent, none of it could shield her from the one thing her daughter wanted most, to feel safe. Her fiancé laid a hand on her shoulder. Not comforting, grounding. "Listen," he said quietly, "if you keep treating her like a responsibility, you'll lose her. Maybe not today, maybe not this year, but eventually she will run, and she'll never come back." My sister stared at him, lips trembling, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. For a terrifying second, I thought she would attack him. But instead she collapsed onto a chair like the strings had been cut from her bones. She buried her face in her hands and whispered, not to us, not to her daughter, but to the air, "I don't know how to love her." No one clapped, no one pitied her, no one stepped in, because every parent in that yard understood that confession. They knew how easy it is to provide, and how impossible it can be to connect. The sun was setting. The backyard lights flickered on. The birthday banner hung crooked, like it no longer knew what it was celebrating. My niece leaned into me. She didn't ask if we could go. She didn't ask if we should leave. She simply said, "Auntie, take me home." And I did. I walked her past the guests, past the expensive decorations, past her mother and the fiancé, and the echoes of a childhood she'd been surviving instead of living. She didn't look back. She didn't wave. She didn't say goodbye. She just held my hand like a lifeline, and we left. The road outside her mother's gated suburb always looked clean at night. Glossy asphalt, bright streetlights, manicured trees lined like soldiers. The kind of neighborhood where people wear grief the way they wear sunglasses, only when they need to. She sat beside me in the passenger seat, still wearing her birthday dress. Pink chiffon with tiny sequins, a costume for a celebration that turned into an autopsy. She held herself small, both hands pressed between her knees, like she was afraid her voice might spill out of her body if she didn't contain it. I didn't say anything. I let the hum of the car fill the silence. Because when you rescue a child from a collapsing house, You don't pepper them with questions. You let them breathe. You let them remember they have lungs. We drove in silence for several minutes, until she spoke, not loud, just barely above a whisper. "Auntie? Yes?" Her voice cracked in the fragile way that happens when someone isn't asking for comfort, they're asking permission to exist. Was I wrong? I gripped the wheel tighter. No. She looked out the window, eyes lost in the blur of passing lights. I didn't mean to make her cry. I exhaled. Sometimes, telling the truth hurts people who don't want to hear it. She nodded slowly, but I didn't say anything bad. I know. I just said I feel safe with you. You did. And she got mad. I glanced at her. She wasn't mad because of what you said. She was mad because you said it out loud. She frowned. I don't understand. I swallowed. You made everyone see what she couldn't hide anymore. Children think truth is a treasure. Adults know it's a weapon. A red traffic light halted us. She leaned her head against the glass. I'm tired. She didn't mean physically. When a child says I'm tired, they mean I don't know how much longer I can pretend. I reached over and touched her hand. You're safe, I said. She didn't smile. She didn't thank me. She just squeezed my fingers like she was afraid I might vanish. Halfway home, she spoke again. Soft, breaking. When I said your house was safe, I didn't say it to make her angry. I know. She bit her lip. I just wanted her to stop yelling at me. The world blurred. I blinked away tears. What was she yelling about? She paused, as if selecting memories like sharp stones. She told me I'm dramatic, that I ruin everything, that I take up too much space. My breath caught. When? Almost every day. I pulled into a gas station lot and parked, not because the tank was empty, because she was. She stared at the windshield. When I talk about school, she says I'm bragging. When I cry, she says I'm weak. When I try to help, she says I'm in the way. Her eyes finally met mine, and when I'm quiet, she asks why I'm punishing her. I sat there, stunned. Not because of the words, because of the familiarity. I had heard every single one of those sentences as a child. From the same lips, different decade, same poison. She turned toward me slowly, voice shaking. When Dad left, she told me it was my fault. My vision swam. What? She said if I had been a better daughter, he would have stayed. Her fingers clenched the hem of her dress. And I believed her. She said it so simply, so plainly, like someone reciting the alphabet, like it was a fact she'd memorized long ago. And I realized, my sister wasn't raising a daughter. She was raising a mirror, one she could scream at when her past haunted her. I took off my seatbelt, pulled her into my arms, and held her, really held her, bones shaking, soul tight, let me carry you kind of holding. Her body collapsed against mine like she'd been waiting months for someone to hold the weight with her. She didn't sob loudly, just shuddered, tiny tremors, the kind that come from children who learned early that crying gets punished. It took minutes before she could breathe normally again. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. I don't want to go back there. The words were final, unquestionable, a verdict, not a plea, and I froze, because I knew what those words meant. They meant consequences. Legal, financial, familial. I wasn't just being the fun aunt anymore. I was crossing into the realm of protector, and that role invites war. My mind raced. Would her mother call the police? Would she accuse me of kidnapping? Would she tell people I manipulated her daughter? Every scenario spiraled into chaos, and then the girl whispered something that burned all hesitation out of me. I just want to sleep without being scared. That was it. Children shouldn't need to earn peace. I started the car. Okay, I said. She blinked, confused. What? You'll stay with me. That's simple. No paperwork, no approval, no permission slip. You don't ask fire for consent to pull someone from the flames. She stared at me like she didn't trust her ears. For how long? I looked straight ahead. For as long as you need. Her shoulders slumped with relief. I didn't realize how light she was until that moment. Like she'd been made of sandbags, and suddenly someone cut the straps. We arrived at my apartment. It wasn't perfect, not luxurious, not curated for guests, no marble countertops, just warm lamps, soft blankets, books everywhere, shoes by the door, lived in silence, a home made from survival, not performance. She walked in and inhaled like she'd been underwater for years. I watched her eyes flicker across the room, to the throw pillows, to the pile of folded laundry, to the sink with one unwashed plate. She whispered, "It smells like you." I smiled, "It smells like detergent and tea." She shook her head, "No, it smells like calm." That sentence hit harder than any scream. She showered while I made tea. She came back in oversized pajamas, my old t-shirt, navy blue sweatpants, hair wrapped in a towel. She sat on the couch, legs tucked under her, tea cupped in both hands like a tiny animal guarding warmth. I sat beside her, not close enough to smother, close enough to say, "I'm here if you need me." She set the cup down. "Auntie? Yes, baby? Will she be okay?" It took me a while to understand the question. She wasn't asking about herself, she was asking about her mother. Even though she was hurt, even though she was scared, even though she was running away, she worried about the woman who broke her. That's the curse of children raised by unhappy parents. They always think they're responsible for the healing. I brushed her hair gently. "She'll be angry first," I said. "Then she'll blame, then she'll try to fix the story, but eventually, she'll realize she has to fix herself." She nodded slowly. "Will she hate me?" "No," I lied. "She won't, because the truth was too cruel. Some mothers don't hate their children. They hate the parts of themselves they see in them." She drifted off on the couch. I covered her with a blanket, turned off the lights and watched her sleep. Even unconscious, she shook. Not violently, like someone who had spent years bracing for impact. I sat beside her for hours, not scrolling my phone, not pacing, just guarding. You don't need guns or threats to protect a child. Sometimes you just sit between them in the dark. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. The screen lit up. It was her mother. "One message, you think you won. Bring her back tomorrow." I didn't reply. Another, "She is my daughter. You do not get to raise her. Then, if she stays with you, don't expect me to forgive you." Not one message asked, "Is she okay?" I stared at the screen until it dimmed. Then I turned off my phone, and in the quiet darkness, listening to my niece's breathing steady, I felt something in me shift. Not rage, not triumph, resolve. For the first time since she was born, I was ready to go to war for her. I woke before dawn, not because of an alarm or a dream, because my body remembered an ancient reflex: when you protect someone, you don't sleep deeply. I sat up and listened. The apartment was quiet in that sacred 5 a.m. way, before traffic, before phones, before life, except for one sound: breathing. She breathed differently here. No shallow panic, no choking sobs, just a steady rhythm, like her lungs were learning her body again. I made coffee on silent feet, grounding myself in small rituals: press the grounds, fill the kettle, wait for the hiss. It's strange the things we cling to when life becomes a battlefield. We sharpen ourselves with routine. Around 7 a.m. the world woke. Birds outside the window, a car horn down the block, a neighbor's door shutting. She padded out of the guest room, hair messy, eyes swollen from sleep. She looked younger than she had the night before. "Good morning," she whispered. I had never heard those words from her without apology attached to them. "Good morning. Not sorry I disturbed you. Not I know you're busy. Just good morning." I handed her toast and fruit. She blinked. "You made this?" "I always make breakfast," I said. She stared at the plate like it was a gift she didn't deserve. "No one cooks for me unless people come over." That sentence was a knife, but I swallowed it. You don't stab the truth when a child finally speaks it. You leave it on the table. You let her see it clearly. She ate quietly, chewed slowly, eyes drifting from the window to my kitchen wall to the plate. This was the kind of morning she never got. Boring, gentle, unremarkable. People don't realize how healing ordinary can be. We spent the morning like strangers, learning to be family. She helped fold laundry. She watered my plants. She asked if she could borrow my hoodie. I said yes to all of it, not to spoil her, not to compete, but to show her something she'd never been taught. Love does not require performance. At 11:03 a.m. the doorbell rang. We both froze. She looked at me with wide eyes. "Auntie." "I know," I murmured. I put my hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to open it." She shook her head. "I can't hide." "No," I said softly. "You're not hiding. You're choosing." She swallowed. "I want to be here." That was enough. I nodded and walked toward the door. The knock came again, harder. Then a voice, bitter, cracking, familiar. "Open the door." My sister. No polite hello, no apology, no negotiation. The tone of someone who believed ownership was the same as love. I unlocked the top bolt, then paused. Before opening, I whispered to my niece, "Remember one thing. You don't have to defend yourself. You only have to tell the truth." She nodded once, not bravely, but with resolve. Sometimes courage is quiet. I opened the door. She stood there in yesterday's makeup, hair disheveled, shoes in hand. She looked like she had cried hard and slept little, but her eyes still burned with the old fire. "Where is she?" she demanded. I stepped aside. She stormed in like she owned the air, until she reached the living room. Then she saw the girl, sitting cross-legged on the couch, wrapped in my hoodie, holding a mug of tea with both hands. A child who belonged to herself. Something flickered across my sister's face. Not anger, fear. She wasn't afraid of losing her daughter. She was afraid of losing the version of herself as a mother. "How could you do this to me?" she hissed at the girl. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "I love you." Not, "I'm sorry." To me. The child set her tea down gently, hands steady. "I didn't do anything to you," her mother scoffed. "You humiliated me in front of everyone." I told the truth. "That wasn't truth," her mother snapped. "That was betrayal." The girl looked at her long, as if seeing her for the first time. "You think everything is betrayal?" Her voice was calm, dangerously calm. The kind of calm children wear when they've cried all their tears already. "You think I hate you when I'm sad? You think I'm ungrateful when I'm tired? You think I'm dramatic when I'm scared?" Her mother's jaw trembled. "Because you are dramatic. You." The girl stood. "No," she said, louder now, clearer. "I'm hurting." The sentence landed like a stone breaking glass. Her mother blinked. "I'm hurting," the girl repeated, voice cracking. "And every time I tell you, you punish me." The woman gasped, as if someone had punched her lungs. She stepped backward. "You don't know what it's like," she whispered. "I had to do everything alone. Your school, your food, your clothes. You did those things," the girl said, "and you never let me forget it." Her mother froze. "You fed me and reminded me I should be grateful. You bought me gifts and told me other parents do more. You gave me a house and said I made it miserable." Her voice didn't waver. She wasn't performing. She was testifying. "And when Auntie listened to me, you told me I was weak." The mother's eyes reddened. Tears began to form, but not regret, not compassion, just humiliation. "How can you say these things to me?" she rasped. The girl took a breath. "Because you never listened when I said them quietly." That line broke her, truly broke her. Her legs shook, her lips trembled, her mascara streaked. She collapsed onto the nearest chair, hands covering her face. I waited for anger, for defiance, for self-defense. Instead, "I don't know how," the girl blinked. "What?" Her mother looked up, tears spilling unchecked. "I don't know how to hear you," she sobbed. "I don't know how to love you without feeling like I'm failing." She looked at me. "Every time you talk to her, she looks at you the way I wish she looked at me." I felt my chest cave, because there it was, not hatred, not malice, fear of inadequacy, a fear she'd never learned to name. The room felt smaller, heavier. The girl stepped closer. "Mom, you scare me." Her mother recoiled, "Not because you hit me, not because you scream." Her voice softened, "But because when I hurt, you act like I'm attacking you." The woman sobbed. "I'm sorry," she choked. "It wasn't perfect. It wasn't polished. It was raw, ugly, painful, and real." "I'm sorry," she repeated. "I thought if I was strong, you'd be strong too." The girl whispered, "I don't need strong. I need safe." Her mother covered her mouth, like the words were a bullet she'd just swallowed. "I don't know how to be safe," she whispered. The girl gently touched her shoulder. "Then let me stay with someone who can show me." Silence. Thick, electric, heavy with unspoken truth. Finally she nodded. Not because she agreed, because she understood defeat, not of her daughter, of the lie she had been living. "Just don't shut me out," she whispered. "I won't," the girl replied. "I just need space." An agreement was born. Not legal, not perfect, not clean, but real. It wouldn't fix everything. It wouldn't erase the past. It wouldn't magically heal years of hurt. It would simply allow something new, a chance. They hugged. Not long, not dramatic, awkward, unsure, unsteady. A hug between two people who didn't know how to hug each other yet. A hug that said, "I'm here, but I'm learning." When her mother left, she didn't slam the door. She closed it softly, like someone leaving a hospital room. That night, my niece slept in the guest room again. No shaking, no nightmares, just breathing. I sat on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Not victorious, not angry, just tired. And then a thought settled into me, slow and gentle as dawn. Love doesn't always save you. Sometimes it just gives you a place to rest, while you learn how to save yourself. The next morning, she came into the kitchen, cheeks still puffy, hair messy, eyes half closed. "Auntie," she said. "Yes, baby?" She sat on a stool, dangling her feet like she used to as a child. "Can we go buy plants today?" I smiled. Of course. She poured herself cereal. No fear, no trembling, no waiting for permission, and in that moment, the calm of an ordinary morning, I realized something. The birthday didn't ruin her life. It saved it. Not because the truth came out, but because she finally said it out loud.